This is 5 minutes of political common sense for America. I'm Brian Boeheim, the political engineer. And in this segment, I want to talk about voter turnout. Now, you've heard me rant on and on about how we are not being represented properly. In particular, I blame the two-party system for placing huge barriers to even getting on the ballot as an outsider. I also blame the eligible voters for continuing to vote based on the same old criterion that's failed us over and over again. I now want to make a slightly different point, though. And I want to do it by breaking down the numbers on who actually elects our representatives. Let's start with the fact that less than 70% of the eligible voters are registered to vote. So only 7 out of 10 people can vote in a primary, and in most primaries, less than 10% of those people cast a vote. This means that 7 out of every 100 people, or 7% of the people, choose who is going to be in the election in November. So that's right, 7% are choosing who the real candidates are that we, the majority of the population, vote for in November. If that doesn't make your head spin, then just wait. In presidential election years, there is roughly a 55% turnout. 2008 was a little higher, it was almost 60%, but that's not really that extreme, even though they claimed it was. And in other federal election years, it's less than 40%. Remember, not everyone goes in and pulls the lever on every candidate. So what does this mean? Less than 30% of the voting population is considered a majority and is sending our representatives to Washington. Is your brain ready to explode yet? Now, let's take a look at the odd years, when the elections are strictly local and have nothing to do with Washington. In local and state elections, there is usually less than a 20% turnout, and in many cases, there is less than a 10% turnout. Think about that. Now that means that in a general election of your state, city, county, and town representation, 6 to 11% of the voters can make the decision on who makes and enforces your laws. Now you factor in that the two-party system controls 95% of the votes. And in my opinion, you've denigrated our system to something much less than a democratic republic. How do we fix this? How do we make sense of this? First, we need to register a larger percentage of the people to vote. Next, we need to keep everyone focused on the key issues in their local elections, which are the more important issues than the federal elections. The local elections are the breeding ground for change and the real political leaders who can actually make your wishes known at the state capitol and in Washington. We need to start taking back control, and that means getting out there and voting. But it also means moving forward in trying to make our vote count. And that can be done at the local and state level much more effectively than in federal elections. Most importantly, we have to get out there in the primaries and before the primaries, helping the people and candidates that may not even be Republican or Democrat have an opportunity to be successful in running for public office. You've been listening to 5 minutes of political common sense for America. I'm Brian Boeheim, the political engineer. And if you like what you've heard here, then pick up a copy of my book, Political Common Sense for America. You can find it at Amazon.com. Until next time, be safe out there.